Coming up today on That LTD Life, it's SurveyNoodle. This is a lifetime deal available from AppSumo that allows you to use AI to create surveys and ask your customers what's really on their mind. Now, even cooler than using AI to create the surveys, you can also use AI to analyze the surveys. And honestly, that's the part that takes most of the time, so I am very excited to try this out. Now, before we begin, my name is Dave. I'm from ClientAmp.com, and this is not a sponsored video. I'm going to be telling you exactly what I like, but more importantly, what I dislike about SurveyNoodle, so you can make up your own mind about if this is a good tool for your business. If you want to support my lifetime deal reviews, I've got a link to AppSumo down below. If you click that before buying anything at AppSumo, it allows me to create these daily lifetime deal reviews. All right, with all of that said, I just want to point out one more pricing thing before we get right into the tool. Okay, so you see here where SurveyNoodle is $69. Now it is $69, but many of the features I'm going to show you in this video are only available on tier 3 and above. Tier 3 is $269, so it's a big jump up to get all of these features. I'll try to call them out as we're going as a feature that is reserved for tier 3 and above, but I might miss it here or there. So at the end, I will come back and do all of the plans and pricing, break down all of the differences between each of the tiers so you can find the one that works best for your budget. Okay, so here is my SurveyNoodle account, and you can see this is the dashboard. The very first thing you see is the responses that you've gotten over time. This is a little confusing to see on a brand new account because it's the last 30 days. And as I move my mouse backwards here, you can see it's dates over the last 30 days, but I just signed up. So I've gotten 11 responses here. I posted a survey on social media before hitting record. But yeah, so we're not going to see a lot of info here. Over time, this will turn into more of a line graph and actually be helpful to see which days got the most responses. But right now we're just seeing, 11 results on October 14th. Then down below, we've got our surveys. You can see I've got 5 on my account right here, and I can view them either in grid mode or in a list view. I probably personally prefer list view because you just get a little more information on the screen, but it defaults over to the grid view. So I will set it for this video at the default setting. The other really important thing I want to point out is that on the left-hand sidebar, there's not a lot to do. The dashboard screen is right here where we are. There's also pinned surveys right here. This is probably my favorite part of the left-hand dashboard is that if there's a few surveys you're currently working on, let's say you're running them for clients or even just running them for your own business, you might have dozens or even hundreds in your account, but only a few you need to access on the regular. So you can go ahead and just favorite the ones that you want, and then they'll be pinned over here on the left-hand sidebar. Very simple, but useful feature. Just to show you how this works, here is the That LTD Life survey. It's currently pinned. If I wanted to pin this survey here, the market research survey, I will pin it and you can see its icon right over here. Now you might be wondering, well, what about these little images? How are those just emojis? How do you get them? Well, if you click on the triple dots over here, we can actually go ahead and edit the survey and then go over to the info tab. And you'll notice that there is an image section right here. Now, of course, I could just drag an image in, or there is AI throughout this tool. It's littered all over the place. So I can click on the little AI thing right here, and it's just going to generate a new image based on the actual description of the survey itself. So you can see here it's generating. This was a previous generation, so we'll see what it updates to here momentarily. We've got another one. It's a little bit difficult to see just because it's kind of small. It kind of looks political. So I'm going to go ahead and just generate another one just to make sure we are in good shape here. Okay, yeah, there we go. Now I've just zoomed in like 100 times on my browser and you can see kind of what it looks like. All right, so here is another result. I think these are fine. They're not amazing just because they're not great icons. I would prefer if it only resulted in an icon, but instead it kind of looks like a default, dolly output. Now, while I'm in this info section, I want to point out that each survey can have its own custom link. I've added a custom link here for this survey. And what that does, once you enter anything into this box, is it adds the link over here to this second menu item. So here is the dedicated link. Now, this doesn't really need to exist, to be honest, because back on the main dashboard, we go to our survey right over here, click on the triple dots, you can get that link here as well. And there's also a QR code. So there's no real reason to have them over here by the links, but I guess it's handy to have all of your links in one spot. Now, a few more things you might want to do in the info section for your survey over here is to enable survey sentiment tracking. This will be using the AI. This is a feature that requires tier 3 and above. It'll go through and give you the overall sentiment of your survey, but only if you turn this on. You can set a frequency as well. So you can do daily, weekly, bi-weekly. So maybe you're not just, updated with results all the time if you don't care that much. Another important checkbox that I know a lot of AppSumo people are going to be looking for is the ability to hide the SurveyNoodle branding. That is right down here. And then we can also turn on our link preview. So when you share this on social media, it's actually going to show you a preview of what the survey looks like. So as an example, I shared this survey on my Facebook group just before hitting record, and you can see what the preview looks like. It's not super beautiful, but at least it's better than a default image of a cat eating noodles or something. Okay, so of course we're going to get into the experience of building a survey momentarily, but let me give you a few more things, both good and bad, about this tool. Now, back on the dashboard, there is a search bar up here, but I find it to be not the most useful thing in the world. And it's also kind of developer-y centric. I'll just give you maybe a tip here that's actually useful. Now, we can, of course, search for the name of a survey, but to me, that's not that helpful. Like if I had searched for LTD and then press return, it finds that LTD life survey. Okay, big deal. But it says it can actually search by results. I've not found that to work at all. Like I expect it to be like I could search for something that someone responded in the results and then it would show up. I've not gotten that to function at all. Now, more importantly, you might be tagging your surveys because that is a feature down here. So let's say I wanted to add a tag to the LTD life survey. I'll just call it demo and I'll hit return there. It's going to add that tag. Now, if I go up here and I search for demo, nothing comes up and it's frustrating. You're like, this doesn't work, but they actually give you the syntax right here. You need to write tag : and then demo. And now it will actually find the survey. So that's what I mean. It's a little developer-y. You might, as a regular person, might not think to do that. You just think I can search by a tag and it'll show up in the results, but not so. Now, just a few more things that I know the Sumolings are going to be very interested in. First of all, you can add your own custom website if you have tier 3 and above. Just go over to settings, account info, and you can connect your domain up right here. So you can have survey.yourdomain.com or whatever your business domain is. The other thing to mention is team members. You probably have people you want to build surveys with. And if you have tier 1, you won't be able to do that because tier 1 doesn't come with any teammates. If you have tier 2, you get 2 teammates, so you can add 1 additional person right down here. And if you have tier 3, you get 3 teammates. So they're kind of stingy on the number of teammates you get. However, if you go up to tier 4, you get 10 teammates, which I think is a lot more reasonable. But remember, then we're talking like, $500 and some dollars. It's not cheap in terms of lifetime deals. So now, what about the actual survey creation process? What is that like? Well, there's 2 different ways to create a survey inside of SurveyNoodle. There's kind of what I'd refer to as easy mode, which is this suggestions button over here. This is going to use a lot of AI to help you create the survey. There's also the create new survey button, which will still use AI, but you can create it completely manually if you prefer. Now, with create new survey, you want to have a better understanding of surveys in general, or more specifically, the type of survey that you want to create. If you're brand new to surveys, then I would go with the suggestions option over here. They should almost call this like easy and regular mode, because easy mode over here, we can simply enter something in like AppSumo, then regenerate. So notice it's kind of to the naked eye, before I click the regenerate button, this just looks like some templates, right? Like fast food customer service feedback, employee engagement survey. These just look like general templates of surveys, but they are not. These are prompts for AI that will basically create a new survey from scratch every time I click the plus button. So if I wanted to customize the prompts that are here, I can enter in a keyword at the top, then hit this regenerate button, and you'll notice that these are all going to change as soon as this generation completes. All right, so I entered in AppSumo, and now the results are all based around AppSumo. So it says product feedback survey, gather user feedback on latest AppSumo products to improve features and usability. Or I've got a use case study to understand how users are using products purchased from AppSumo in their business. Market research survey. So if I wanted to find out the needs of AppSumo users, what are they looking for? I'll just click this button right here, and then it's going to go ahead and generate a survey. Now, notice there was a little error at the top here. It said the name already exists. So sometimes I'm getting little weird glitches like that where it's like, why does the name already exist? I didn't ask to name the survey. So let's try it again. I'll choose market research survey. Survey with name already exists. So let's change my suggestions. Maybe I can create a new survey here by regenerating. Now I'll say AppSumo customers. And I'll try this one down here. It says top pain points. So identify the main challenges customers face that AppSumo can address. I'll click that plus button. And now it looks like the generation is actually happening. So why was I getting that error? I don't know. And I don't know how to get around it. There's often ways inside of this tool to kind of figure out what's going wrong, but every once in a while, there's just a weird glitch like that, and you kind of just got to try again. Okay, so now my survey is created. Like, it's that easy. I was just talking and it made the entire survey. We've got 5 questions over here, and you can see the question and their answers over in the main view here. So the first question is multiple choice. There's also a range question. So this is going to be 1 to 10. There's going to be a select all that apply. That's kind of like a checkbox question, although they're not actually checkboxes. You can just choose as many answers as you like. And then there's another range question here and a long answer, which is more of like a text field where someone can just type their feelings. Now, all of these questions are completely customizable. So I can just choose the question that I want, go ahead and change the question here. I can even change the type of question. So if I don't want this to be a range question, I want it to be multiple choice or rating, I could do that. And I could choose the number of stars. So 10's a lot. Let's do, 0 to 5. You get the point. It's very easy to use. It feels a lot like a form building tool. And form builders and survey builders have a lot in common, but obviously with surveys, you're going to be doing a lot of different things with the data, whereas forms are often used just for gathering leads or maybe slightly less complex tasks than surveys, which almost always have a lot of analysis after the fact. Now, there is AI all over this interface. There's a button up here to add new questions using AI. We can add images to any of the questions we want. So if we want to generate an image over here, I can do that. So this will add an image for the question itself. And there we go. Now we have our question with an image, but maybe you want to have an image with each answer. Well, there's an option for that as well. You just click the little gear icon and you can generate an image right here. And we're going to have an image for this question momentarily. There we go. So rather than having a result, now I just have an image here. Now, of course, you'd think you'd be able to enter in a description for this image so you don't just see the image here. But if you click on the gear icon, there is an instruction section. If I enter in something like cost effectiveness here and then hit save, well, nothing happens. And if I click the gear icon again, the description I just entered is gone. So that's definitely a pretty big bug. Now, I mentioned before, you can actually create questions using AI. So if you want to add additional questions to your survey, you can either do so manually right here, like I could just enter in the question, this is my question, and then hit save here. And now I've got an additional question down at the bottom. Now, if I go back to that same plus button, you might have noticed there is an AI button here as well. If I click on that, it's going to just generate a question from AI, and it should show up over here. Sure enough, it does. It says, what factors do you consider most when evaluating software reviews? Now, if I like this question, I can hit save, and it shows up down here as question number 7. Okay, so this was generated by clicking on the plus button and then choosing the AI button. But if you know you want to generate a question with AI, you can actually just skip right to this AI button over here. It's going to go ahead and eat some noodles, and then momentarily the survey cat will create our new question. We can, obviously update the type of question that it is and use AI to generate it again. And now we have our new question. Once I'm happy, I can go ahead and hit save, and it will show up down here as question number 8. Now, when you have a question like this one here, that's a select all that can apply, or like a checkbox question, as I would usually refer to it, there is the option over here to use AI to generate new choices. So if I click on this, you'll see all of these choices are going to be updated here momentarily. Now, of course, I could update them manually if I wanted, but we can just see what the AI can come up with here. Now I've got a lot more choices, but they are all different. And you can remove the ones you don't like and just edit right in line to update them. So I'll just name this website comparisons. Now, there is also conditional logic built into this tool. So if you only want to ask certain questions after you've gotten a specific answer, you could definitely do so. You can see on the settings over here on the right, there's conditionals. So I can add in a condition like, let's say if the user answers detailed product reviews, then I can jump them right to maybe question 5, or you get the point. And you can have as many of these as you like. So you could add in multiple conditions based on each individual response to map them to the next appropriate question. So you could actually have some pretty complex surveys in here. As you're adding in the conditional logic, the questions that have conditional logic will display this little icon over here to show that they're jumping around to different questions. All right, so when your survey is complete, of course, the next thing you're gonna wanna do is get people to fill it out. Now, before you share this publicly, you might want to just view the survey to see what it looks like. Here is what it looks like on the front end. You can see my image here is actually broken. That's problematic. There's also the SurveyNoodle logo down here. I can remove that, but I just have not done so for this particular survey. And this is the user interface. Now, that broken image is definitely a glaring error. So let's go ahead and just skip to the next question. We can see it's relatively fast to get through. This one's a multiple selection, so I'm choosing multiple options here. They light up in red, so you can turn them on and off. And then I'll go to the next question. Here is a rating question. This is what a long answer question looks like. So I'll just enter in some text here, hit next, and then I've got my question I created myself, as well as the last few questions created by AI. We'll fill these out. And then we get our thank you screen. Now it says, thanks for your feedback. Would you like to create your own survey for free? You can actually customize this end screen. I didn't mention it, but let me show you where that is. At the bottom of your list of questions, there's another section here that says endings. And if you click on this, you can add in an ending screen. So I'll just say like, thanks for taking my survey. I could write another line of text here if I like, or maybe I want to drop in some links for people to go to next. I could say like, visit my website, and then enter in the URL of that website. And here is my button to visit the website. Now, there is a few other options down here for formatting. Now, notice if I click on the tooltip here, it's actually asking for a Tailwind CSS class. Now, that's fine for me, but for the average person, they're gonna be like, what? You want me to do what? That's just like nonsensical. So I definitely would recommend the developers, get in here and give you some, just color pickers. Just let me choose what my button looks like. I think that would make a lot more sense. You can also add in an icon here. And once again, it's kind of developer-y. It's not as bad as the last one, but it's asking for the material symbol. So if you click on the icon here, it's just going to take you to this external site where you could, look for website. And let's say I wanted to use this one. I'll click on it and then copy the code for that, bop back over, paste that in, and now I've got an icon next to my button. I mean, it's fine. It's just not the best experience in the world, right? A few more things we can do here is just redirect people to another page. You can do that with just toggling this switch on, entering your page here. And you can also use dynamic content. So if you want to grab content from other answers and then bring them into the thank you page, you could do that as well. So toggling on this dynamic content switch right here adds this section for dynamic content, which you could then customize more specifically. Okay, so this is ending number 1, but if you wanted to have multiple endings, you could definitely do that. So I'll say ending 2, and then maybe based on the result of a particular question, I'm going to choose which ending they're going to go to. So in the conditionals, I can choose a specific answer and then send them to a specific ending. So an example of how this might be useful is, let's say someone makes it to the end of your survey and you say, hey, would you like to schedule an appointment to talk about this in more detail? If they say yes, you can take them over to your booking page, like your Calendly. But if they say no, maybe you ask for their email address so you can follow up with them over email, because sometimes people will give you their email, but they don't want to give you their time. So in that scenario, you have 2 ending pages, both asking for different things. Okay, so we've created our survey, we viewed the preview, everything is looking good. We are ready to share this thing. There's a share option right up here. So we've been in the questions, just move over to share. You'll get a link so you can just publish this on social media, include it in an email, whatever you want to do. There's also a QR code. So if you've got a brick and mortar business, you can download this, print it, put it on your menus, put it on little cards on your tabletops, and people can scan it and give you feedback right there. There's a preview screen right here so you can see what it looks like on mobile as well as desktop. Of course, we could just view it. I think that's a little better experience. And there is an embed widget as well. So if you want to put this on your existing website, just copy the code, paste it where you want it to go, and you're off to the races. Okay, so now we've published our survey and we're starting to get some results. Let's go ahead and check out what that looks like and how we can actually do some analysis. I've got my survey here that I published right before hitting record. It's called That LTD Life Survey. It's got 6 questions. Let's open it up. Now, when I click it to open it up after actually publishing it, it takes me right to this summary page where I can see each of the questions. So let's start at question number 1, and then I can see how everyone has responded. There's also previous and next buttons right here, so I can just kind of quickly thumb through all of the results and find out what people are answering. Now, up at the top here, I can see the response rate, so how many views, starts, submissions, and the overall completion rate. I think this is helpful, although it's a little bit weird that I've got 0 views and then 13 submissions. So obviously there is something wonky with their analytics. Let's try reloading. Oh, now it went up to 1 view. However, with a 92.9% completion rate, I would definitely be happy with that. Now, the next tab over here is the summary, and this is where you'll see the overall sentiment, the AI analysis of the actual survey. Now, this only happens up to once a day, and because this is a relatively new published survey, it actually doesn't have a summary here. You see it says, no current summary, please regenerate. Well, if I click on this, I'm not getting any results here at all. Sure, it would be nice if I could generate this on demand, but I think it's going to be limited to that like once per day setting that we saw earlier when we actually created the survey. Just to refresh your memory, that's in the info section. And then we have to enable sentiment tracking over time. So that's on for daily right now. Now, keep in mind that this is only available on tier 3 and tier 4 of the AppSumo plan. Otherwise, you will not have access to this feature at all. Now, besides the summary tab, there's also this action items tab, which should use AI to tell you if there's anything in the survey that people are telling you you need to do or to improve. So I expect this to be very helpful, but I'm not getting anything from it right now. Sure, it would be great if I could just click that button and get those action items at any point, but it's probably a lot of data to process. Now, for each of the questions, we were looking at the responses, which just gives us kind of, this line graph here of how people are responding. But there is also a summary view. And if you click on this, it will give you an AI generated summary of what the responses are on a specific question. Now, this is very hit and miss. So for something like this, where it's select all that apply, I've actually got an answer here that's kind of helpful, but it's very wordy. Now, if I go up to a range-based question, it just says there are no responses, even though if we go over to the responses, there clearly are responses, but the summary doesn't seem to pick that up, even if I regenerate multiple times. There's currently no data collected. In fact, it's interesting, only the range question seems to have trouble answering in terms of an AI-based summary. If I go to multiple choice, that works. If I go to true and false, that works. And perhaps most importantly, long answer works very well. This is the type of question where you might need to manually read maybe hundreds of paragraph long answers. Just generally kind of having that summarized for you with AI could save you many, many hours. Now, here is a specific question. It's asking, what improvements would you like to see in the future from my content? And the answer here from many people was they want more concise reviews. Now, I've heard this before, but I've also heard, I like the detail. I want you to go as detailed as possible. And so I'm going to respond to this survey question right now. Guess what? We have the Taco Truck Roundup. This comes out once a week and it includes all of the full-length reviews into about 10 to 15 minutes. You can go through and get a general impression, a concise review of every single tool. And if you want more info, that's when you come back to the full-length reviews. I can't make the Taco Truck Roundup unless I make these videos. So there we go. I've 2 birds with 1 stone here. So all of the results we've seen so far are on this summary page. But if you want to see individual responses, you can see those over here on the results page, where you can see each individual submission, when it was submitted, and the specific answers that they gave. And you can just toggle through them with the previous and next buttons down here. Now, after you've gotten all of your submissions, you're probably going to want to get some data off of this platform so you can share it with your boss, your clients, whoever needs to see it. Now, you can click this generate report button, which is really just download CSV. That will export all of the data to a CSV. But there's also a built-in integration with Google Sheets. You can access that from the gear icon right over here. Just go settings, integrations, and there's the only integration. It's Google Sheets. So you could export directly to Google Sheets. But there is one thing else that it can do. And that is what they call the Noodle Bot, where you can simply just talk to their AI and it can view your results and give you answers. So what do people like the least? And then here we go. We get a laundry list of things that people like the least. Now, these could be helpful, but they could also be a little misleading. So for example, here it says visual presentation. So this option received the fewest mentions with only 5 out of 15 respondents indicating it as a valuable aspect. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that it was liked the least in terms of how I wrote the question, like what is upsetting people the most. It just wasn't most important to them in this specific question. So you'll still need to have a little bit of knowledge about the subject that the survey is on in order to fully understand the type of bot result. Just like ChatGPT, you'll get the most out of it if you understand the subject that's actually being discussed. Now, you can also ask it to create a PowerPoint presentation and it can do so. So I've just asked it right now. It's thinking and it's going to eventually finish up and give me some downloadable content that I can open up in PowerPoint. All right, it did think very long and hard, but eventually it output the presentation. I can simply click right here to download the presentation and open it up in PowerPoint or any compatible application. So here's what it looks like inside of Keynote. I don't have PowerPoint, but it's basically just user session data and then this single chart here. So while it did actually output a file, it wasn't super helpful. All right, so I'm going to try to use some prompting here to see if I can improve the presentation. I just asked it to make the presentation better, like include some charts, graphs, and slides. And it just gave me a list of what the slides might be. And that sounds pretty good. So I'll just say, make it. And it didn't respond. I just said hello after there was no response. And it's like, hey, how can I help you today? So you can't actually customize the prompts any further than that. And the output of the charts leaves a little to be desired. So here are the plans and pricing at AppSumo for the SurveyNoodle tiers. So tier 1 is going to give you 1,000 monthly responses and a single user. Tier 2 triples the number of responses, giving you 3,000 responses and 2 users. And the fun starts really at tier 3, where we get 10,000 responses, 3 users. Then we get the automated sentiment analysis that I have not actually seen the results of yet. The QR codes, that's important to note. I didn't point that out earlier. To get the QR codes, you need to be on tier 3 and above. We get the dynamic content in the output there in the endings. Remember, we looked at that little checkbox. And then the custom domains. All of that starts at tier 3. You get no new features at tier 4, but you get increased limits up to 30,000 responses and 10 users, all for $579. Now, the AI items you do get on tier 1 and tier 2 are going to be the Noodle Bot. You can chat with your document, essentially. That is included even at those lower level plans. What you won't get is the sentiment analysis. I think that's a very important distinction. Yeah, just to be totally clear, here are all of the features in all plans. We get unlimited surveys and questions, AI survey creation, advanced conditional logic, we saw that, custom endings, Noodle Bot, AI summary and action items, QR codes, vanity static links, and custom survey themes. Oh, I didn't look at the themes. Let's check that out. The theme settings are actually over on the share link. I totally missed this. So if you go to share, there's a theme section over here. You've got your default theme as well as the default dark theme, and then you can customize it using these colors over here. So thankfully, you don't have to write CSS or anything crazy. No tailwind here. You can even change the text for the buttons previous and next. So that's a nice touch. Okay, so that's SurveyNoodle. It's a little rough around the edges, if I'm totally honest, but a lot of the core features are very interesting. So a mixed bag for sure. I'm definitely going to give this one somewhere in the 6s. I want to lean towards 6, 7. I think it's a good tool, but definitely could do with a little bit of additional polish to be more at home with the average person that needs to create surveys for their business. Now, if you want to grab SurveyNoodle, of course, I've got a link in the description. You can use that to get SurveyNoodle or anything else at AppSumo. Hit me up in the comments with any questions you might have about this tool, maybe anything I missed as well. I definitely want to be kept up to date. Find me over at clientamp.com, get signed up for the free email newsletter, and I'll see you in the next review.